bloody forever for that thing to connect. Says excellent connection, but I don't see anything yet. There we go. And there's a pretty long delay in there. Okay, let's get this down just a bit there. Okay. And I want to talk about this. So this will go here. It's okay. Well, maybe I should. Where's the... There it is. Oh, and that's already in there. Okay. And this is the... Okay. Just leave that down there. Yeah, let's do the magnet. Let's get it go square. Okay. Very good. Wearing my quartzite shirt. Let's see. So we got everything. We're ready to go. Let's see if that... just the audio is the line in. Okay, overhead. Audio is line in. Teleprompter. Audio is line in. And screen audio is line in. Okay, very good. We're actually set for once. I mean, last week was a slapstick movie kind of stuff because this camera wasn't working. That camera wasn't working. This was, so I had to unhook it, unravel it, and I used packing tape to hold it down on the thing. It just took about 15 minutes to get the whole thing underway, but it worked. So I'm live streaming in HD, but I've got the frame rate slowed down quite a bit. So it'll take less bandwidth, which actually makes it easier for people watching. They don't have to, you know, if you're going to watch a movie, it's going to take at least 3 megabits per second to show the movie. And if it's 4K, it's going to be that much more. So it's not going to start yet for a few minutes. So how long do you think you're going to hang around?
Probably 7:30.
7:30? Okay. Well.
And tomorrow I'll be here till about 2:30.
Okay, you'll be here at 10 tomorrow then.
Yes.
Also? Okay, good. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Of course.
So I'll let you get back to editing. And,
okay. Do you want me to close this door?
yeah, I probably should. It's usually closed for this.
Have fun.
Thank you. Oh, this is live. I had not yet clicked start stream. That's interesting. Okay, supposed to start in another couple minutes. I think we'll wait just a little bit. 27 people already. Good morning, world. Been a wet day. Some good rain in Philippines. Builds with Brian. Completely new to radio. Currently in the process of setting up a CB radio base station. And I'm finding conflicting info on how to properly ground the system. Ah, man, I've done a number of videos on grounding. I think my Ask Dave number 8 is probably the most concise. This book right here Grounding and Bonding for the Radio Amateur, 2nd edition from the ARRL by H. Ward Silver, is considered the ham radio's Bible for grounding. Now, I'll take a look at your question a little bit because hams run into the same problems with grounding. Let's see, we can't hear you. My audio shows that it's going out. No audio. Oh, there we go. Okay, now we can hear you. You're live. Very low audio now. Now, let me see if I can turn up some volume levels. I'm using a wireless mic. That one. This is my Quartz Fest shirt. This is the other end of the wireless right here, and it's going via a audio cable into a line in. Let me see if I can get to the open volume mixer. Okay, volume. Now output device, input device. Okay. Now wait a minute, which is which? System volume. Well, let's go up a little bit. I don't think that's going to make it any louder going out. These in OBS are turned up all the way. Unfortunately, the little microphone allows itself to be lock volume, unhide all, hide, rename, vertical layout, filters, properties, advanced audio properties. I wonder what that is. Okay, oh, this is just audio input capture, desktop audio, mono, sync offset, monitor off. I don't know that I can go any louder. Where is the... Okay, sound settings. Okay, where to play sound. Okay, pair a new mono audio, combine left and right channels into one. There is only one channel. Input, line in. Okay, volume, let's go up a little bit, but that doesn't actually change the volume that I can see. Advanced. All sound devices. Volume mixer. Setting up a microphone. Start setting system sound at device, blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's not telling me anything. This is not telling me anything. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. The audio is coming from this right here. And this is the audio that we use for recording, and you can see on this right here, the levels go up. It's actually green, but it shows up as white there. Let me see. I don't see anything on here where I can change the volume. It's set up for recording. With recording, I want to record cold. That means I don't want the volume to hit its max. That way we've got the full range to deal with. It's like 16-bit audio, maybe more than that. And that way we can compress or do something like that. Nothing goes outside the ranges. So I hope you will stay with me here. I've got the volume turned up all the way. Properties. Line in. There are no other properties for the thing. So anyway, let me know if you can hear it loudly enough to go through this. Otherwise, I might have to go to a different microphone. I could always go back to the mics that are in the cameras. But anyway. Okay. No audio, great video. There we go. The Quarantine Catholic. Okay, we can hear you now. You're live, sir. Neon Suspenders. That's a new name. Tim in very low audio now. Okay, low audio. Good evening, Dave and all Uggies. Good evening, sir. We can hear you. I can hear you fine. Getting audio but lower than usual. That's because I'm using a different microphone. There were some complaints last week that the microphone audio was not full, crisp and clear and stuff like that. And these little microphones up here are designed for, you know, things like live streams and so on. I do have one other microphone that's on a stand. It's a Chinese microphone, and those of you who are familiar with listening to Chinese, they use a very different vocalizations than we do. And it's a tonal language. Unlike English, where I'm just using basically a constant tone across, you go up and down and down and up and up and down. And it's, I think the microphone is designed for that because it is a Chinese microphone. But if this doesn't work, I can always go to that. Okay, we just turned up our volume here. You're fine, mic too far down. I can always move it up. It's actually being held in place by a magnet. So I gotta get the magnet off there. Push it up. I have it in my hand. There you go. I don't know where it went. Okay, well, let's do this. I'm just gonna put it up here. I just lost the little magnet. There. Okay, is that any better? Okay. Let's see. Here you find mic too far down. Well, I've moved it up to here. It's usually up about here. This is the logo. This is the logo for the Quartz Fest, Hamfest, which is down in Quartzsite, Arizona, every January, where we're supposed to have wonderful weather. Yeah, right. Okay. Larry in the Philippines says, plan to go to NTC in Cavite. Cavite is a city near Manila in the Philippines, and register. That's the Filipinos version of the FCC. Each month they provide a licensing program. Hey Dave, I have a question. What are your thoughts about protecting our gear for solar flare or an EMP? Solar flares, your ordinary lightning protection is going to take care of it. Okay. And what usually happens with the solar flare or something like that, the thing that's bad is when there's a coronal mass ejection and it comes our way. Now, the Earth's magnetic field protects us from that because the charged particles follow the lines, the magnetic lines of force, which means they follow it right into the Earth at the North Magnetic Pole. Now, when they get there, they're excited electrons and all that sort of stuff. They glow, and we call that the aurora, and that's where the aurora comes from. So that's the kind of thing we're going to have. Now, if you get one of those Carrington-style events, they found out with the landline telegraphs that those long wires acted as great antennas for that sort of thing. There were even fires in some of the telegraph stations, and some people discovered that they could bypass the battery in their station and still communicate. Very interesting. Now, if you're concerned, I did a video about EMP. The problem with the lightning protection, and this worked fine for lightning, is the rise time about 100 to 200 nanoseconds, which is fine. If you really want to get your protection down to less than 1 nanosecond, which is what EMP would be, and I'm talking about EMP coming from a high altitude up in space. Well, it's actually in the ionosphere, nuclear explosion. We have a fair amount of data from back in the 50s when they did those tests. Like I said, I've got a presentation about it. This right here will respond within a nanosecond. So you treat it like a lightning arrestor. You clamp that to ground, okay, and then you've got an in and out on the thing. And what this does is, if an EMP pulse is coming in, it'll short it. Okay, just like lightning, there's a little gas discharge tube in a standard lightning arrestor like the Alpha Delta. It's got a little gas tube in here, and I'll show it to you. It's really tiny. See if I can get it to focus on that. It tries to focus on it, then it goes away. Okay, anyway, it's a little gas discharge tube. And that is in the thing. And notice they come out in case you have to replace it. They're supposed to last, but you can buy replacement tubes really easily. And they go in, you don't have to take them out of the circuit or anything. The lightning protectors that I have right now are Morgan. I do not have the ability to create a nanosecond pulse, so I can't test them, anything like that. This company right here was kind of put together in response to a lot of government interest. Well, without giving the video, the point is that these things are available from a company called EMP Shield, and you can go to them. They are actually this is model ANT 1500, so it'll handle 1500 watts of output, your max allowed output, without causing the thing to arc over, thinking that what's coming out of your amplifier is an issue. Okay, so that's kind of the very short version of that. But let's see, if we look at the screen here, we can go to Studio. Let's check this, and we'll go EMP P. High altitude nuclear electromagnetic pulse It's video 988. And this video right here, it's a long one, 43 minutes and 10 seconds. I gave this presentation at the Flagstaff, Pacificon, the Albuquerque Hamfest, and a bunch of others. Nobody's come back to me to say I'm wrong on anything. But I had a long talk with the guy who invented all this stuff, put it together. Basically, the federal government moves at the speed of government, which is very, very slow. I mean, the year they decide they want to do something about EMP, that kicks off several years of studies and prototyping and testing and yada, yada, yada. Well, they're kind of to the end of that now. And EMP shield cells, and I don't get kickback on this thing, I don't think. If you do go to that, try putting KE0OG into the discount place. I don't think you'll still get a discount on it. This was a couple of years ago. But those things will work. A lot of the stuff that you hear about EMP is overblown. Very much overblown. It's nowhere near as bad as some people will lead you to believe. I remember once I was at a hemp club meeting and some guy said to another, you know, EMP will jump 6 feet. And my first response is, how do you know it won't work at 6.1 feet? But my actual verbalized response was, where did you get that? And they wouldn't answer me. They wouldn't tell me. Because they know I'm an engineer and I don't believe in conspiracy theories or pseudoscience or things like that. The fact is that the pulse lasts about 5 nanoseconds. Light travels about that far in 1 nanosecond. Okay, so multiply that by 5, and, well, my arms reach out about 6 feet each way. That is the thickness of the pulse, and it goes past you at the speed of light. So it's extremely brief. And you need a lightning arrestor that can short within a nanosecond, and then you've shorted that pulse across here. I actually calculated the amount of energy in an EMP pulse, and it's not that much. Will it catch power lines? Yes. Are the utilities doing anything about that? Yes, now they are. They're at the implementation stage of this EMP stuff. Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, and stuff like that are doing that. There are whole volumes that you can get online about protection for the electrical lines and stuff like that. When I was a kid, if lightning struck the electrical wires, the power would be out for about 2 hours while they went around and reset all the breakers and everything like that. Now, all the breakers are self-resetting, and they'll reset about 3 times, and if it still doesn't work, they'll go off, and then it will take a while. But that's extremely rare. When we have power outages here, they are usually because they are scheduled. The entire electrical system has been built now with the knowledge about these electromagnetic pulse events. And will there be problems? Yeah, of course. But you can buy stuff from this outfit to cover your whole house, to cover Cat5 cable, to take care of, I don't know, all kinds of things. The guy who I talked to, who had founded this place, was forced out by a business coup. and he died not long after. Some say he died of a broken heart because his whole life was into this company. But he was like, you know, what's the guy's name? Land, who developed Polaroid. And he got pushed out of his company because he was a great inventor, but a lousy businessman. Even Steve Jobs got kicked out of his company for a while, till they were nosing in and just about to make contact with the Earth, and they had the good sense to bring him back. And then that's when Apple switched from computers nobody wanted to the first successful product after that was the iPod. And they've been going ever since. So, okay, let's see what we can do here. Better when I move the mic, okay. Al Franca, W1AJF, did increase. Chuck Schreiber says good evening and hello to all Augies and 5KVO from the hill country of South Texas, sunny and 88. It is 89 here. Let's see what the max was today, 90. It was 90 today, is that right? Boy, it's rare it hits 90 around here. It would have been over 100 in Montrose. It was over 100 when I was in Montrose a couple days ago. So it's the hot season. I understand that there is a heat dome over much of the U.S. because of the way the jet stream is moving. The jet stream actually kind of determines, it winds around through the high and low pressure areas. And there's this heat dome making some places extremely hot, unsafely hot. If you are in a place where it is hot and humid and you don't have air conditioning, I would recommend you go to a cooling center, which might be a stadium, indoor stadium, might be Walmart, whatever. Just get out of it because it can kill. It's rare, extremely rare when it gets to 90 where we live. We're at 7,000 feet. It's not so rare in Montrose, which is about a mile high, and then up in Grand Junction where it's about 4,500 feet high. It definitely gets hot there. Okay, let's see, what else have we got? Chuck Schreiber. Doug Dry, good evening, and all Augies from Doug KD4NC. In Kennesaw, Georgia, he was working on his treadmill. Franco Contreras, I don't have utility ground in my house. Is that a big problem? If that house was built in the last 40 years, it's there somewhere. It might be inside the wall. If you're built on a slab, sometimes they don't put ground rods in, but rather they create what's called an oofer ground. And that actually is the name of the guy who invented it. It's a long piece of rebar that runs in the slab, and it comes up usually in the wall. So you might have an oofer ground, and you might want to do that. This book I was telling you about earlier, Grounding and Bonding for the Radio Amateur, is second edition. This is a cute little thing my assistant made for me. He's major into 3D printing. And so that is actually 3D printed with 3 different colors. Technically, the inside here should be a very light blue, but that's okay. You got to pick colors. You can be this color or this color or this color. That's about it. Okay, let's see. Utility ground in your home. Talk to your utility and find out if they've got something there, because there's supposed to be one there. And the neutral from the power line that comes in is you get 3 wires, plus 120, minus 120, and then the bare wire that comes in is the so-called neutral between the two. And that neutral is connected to ground at exactly one place, and that's in the electrical panel where your meter is. So what you have to do is find out what kind of a ground they've put in. If there is no ground, you might want to invite them to install one. Now, your station ground should be a ground rod driven into the ground right outside where your station is. And then inside your station, you have a single point grounding point, which is usually a piece of copper pipe about this long. And I'll show you what I did. Get the whiteboard, put it on overhead. I got these cameras working today. I hope they still work. Okay. Take a copper pipe that's like 1.5 feet long, okay? There you go, piece of copper pipe. You can pick up short pieces of copper pipe at Home Depot. They've got a collection where they're like 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, so on, for special projects. Just get one of those. I hammered this down here till it was flat, and then I bent it. So this is what it looks like from the end. Here is the bent piece coming. I put it down to the piece of wood that this is attached to and put it out like this so that I could put a bolt through there. And then I put my ground right there. Well, let's see. Oh, I've grounded things there. But what you do is you bring the various grounds to, like your rig, to this and put a hose clamp around it. And I say hose clamp because this needs to be a crimped connection. If you solder anything, if there's any solder in your ground system, what happens is that can flash boil and spray everywhere. You don't want any solder in your ground system. Yeah, sure, inside your chassis you're going to solder things to ground, but outside where you're dealing with ground. So what I have from this going to outside is a single piece of, it's insulated THHN number 2 wire, and it is connected here and then connected to my single point ground panel outside. And what I have outside is this panel. And you open it up and there's where all my lightning arresters are. And there's a direct connection from there to ground, which is, it's about this high off the ground. So that, maybe, you know, so I can get to it and work on it because I'm constantly changing things. Okay, so yeah, go look for it. It's there somewhere. If your house was built in the 30s, maybe it isn't. Sometimes these old houses, they would ground to the cold water pipe on the assumption that the water pipe was copper going all the way out to the main line, or at least steel. But nowadays they're all plastic, and those don't conduct electricity worth anything. So you might want to not do that. Okay, let's see. Let's see. In America, our system will not work without a ground neutral. I've seen what happens when the neutral ground goes away. It isn't pretty. Yes. That's the American way of doing things. You rock, Dave. Thanks for the breakdown of EMP. My call sign is KI5WEP. Hugs from Central Texas. I always love all your sidebar stories when answering questions. I try, to make this a little bit entertaining. Our purpose here for the live stream is to just chat. Okay, we've got the chat stream here, and I'm looking at it, try to catch everybody. And if somebody asks a question, I'll give a shot at answering it. If I don't know the answer to the question, I'll say I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't know. Okay. Doug, dry in Argentina. The house is rented though. Rented. Okay. I would still suggest the same kind of thing for the grounds with a ground rod outside. Now, if you have a ground rod by an antenna, like for example, my step IR, big IR, is a vertical, ground mounted. I got all these radials, and there's a ground rod driven there. Okay, that's supposed to be connected to this ground rod here. I will do that someday, soon. 69 degrees on Cape Cod now. Oh, there you go. Leo Gustafson, good afternoon, Dave and everybody. Checking in from Albany, Oregon, 70 and 44% humidity. Sounds extremely pleasant. 69 degrees, Cape Cod, NI1S. Doug Dry, Franco, I should have said USA here. I really don't know about the systems in South America. Is the system ours where the 220 is split with the neutral to give us two sets of 120? Actually, in most of the world, the voltage is 220 for normal outlets. And the outlets are kind of different in each country. The British are, I don't know why, as part of their culture, they're deathly afraid of being shocked. So their outlets are designed so that the contacts will not hit any electrical until the plastic part is already in the fixture. So there's no way, if your finger's caught under there, that you can get shocked. That's not true here in America, but we're all raised with the idea that you should avoid getting shocked. How many times did I shock myself as a child? At least 2 I can remember, sometimes more. You hit that 120 volts and wow, wow. If you hit it between your hands, it goes right through your heart. It's the current that kills, not the voltage. We can go into lightning safety for quite a while. It's in the general and the extra books. They have the same safety chapters on lightning safety and grounding. So those are good things to look at. Okay, let's see. Thanks for the breakdown of EMP. Doug Dray, 69. Good afternoon, Dave. Airy. Checking in from Albany. Franco. Okay, yeah, they've got, and I don't know if they split things. The thing about 220 volt wiring is that your standard household circuit is wired with 16 gauge. Because you got higher voltage, thinner wire, you're okay. We can't do that in the US. Our 15 amp wiring is 14 gauge, and our 30 amp wiring is 10 gauge, and you can use 12 gauge for 20 amp wiring. It's a little known fact that circuit breakers are designed to pop when there's a sudden increase in the current. If there's a very gradual increase in the current, it may not pop. And so you got to kind of remember that. My house is wired with number 14 wire, 15 amps, which is about 1,800 watts. My whole station, including the amplifier, does not exceed that. So my amp is a 110 volt amp. It's only a 500 watt amp. So someday when I'm rich and famous, I'll put in a tower and all that. But I've got a hex beam out there. I need to do some more repairs on it. It's an MFJ, and it was not built for this altitude. We're at 7,000 feet. So we get a whole bunch more ultraviolet here than you do at sea level. And in fact, if you are not acclimated to this area, 15 minutes in the sun can give you a whale of a sunburn. You don't want to do that. You got to be careful here about sunburn. And yeah, I forget sometimes, I know. Okay. Leo says, a brownout zapped my hem clock, but with the help of Michael at Innovato, I was reminded to reflash the SD card to regain function. Very good. Very good. I'm glad that there was a positive outcome of that. Doug Dry says, if it's just that the neutral is good, but it's not bonded to earth ground, that will work, but it could be very dangerous. Would never pass inspection around here. Yeah, that's true. Now, why do we ground all of the equipment in the ham shack to one point here before we go outside? The idea is that if there's a lightning strike, the voltage will go up, but it will go up equally on all your pieces of equipment. So there's no voltage difference between them, okay? And the reason that we ground or bond our ground rods together is the same thing, to keep the house voltage at the same voltage here. Now there are circumstances where if you've got the ground for the earth or for the utility over there and the ground for the ham station here, you can get a significant difference in potential. So I'm working with a grounding expert to really understand what's going on. I think I may have to attach my green wire ground here in the station to my ground here, so that if the house goes up in voltage, it doesn't make a big difference between the momentary voltage here and the wall outlets. But I haven't gotten a definitive answer to that yet, but will. Okay. Yeah, the neutral, if you notice, you look at power poles. Out here in the boonies, there's just two wires. It's single phase. And one of those wires at every pole has got a line going down to ground. At every pole. Okay? And often it's, if their wires are vertical, it's the top wire that catches that. If you see high tension lines strung across, there's three wires. They're in a so-called delta configuration, the three-phase power. And up above it, there are two wires. And those wires are to catch the lightning. If you put up a tower, you've got to understand it's going to be a lightning catcher. So it has to be grounded very carefully. Great audio and video when you went to the drawing board camera. Good. The thing is, when I'm there, I'm talking down right into the microphone like this, which is why I have the little fluffy thing here, which keeps the plosives out of it. Okay, let's see. Is it true a car is shielded from strikes? A CB friend's car was hit when he was responding to a problem. He was a sheriff. He landed in the hospital, told me he responded to office on the radio. If you're holding a microphone in your hand and it goes to a radio that goes to an antenna outside that gets hit by lightning, yeah, that can be an issue, okay? And he's lucky. Now, normally in a car, you're okay because the outside of the car is metal and you're sitting in basically a Faraday cage. And the rubber tires, of course, if they're covered with rain, they're somewhat conductive. Fresh water is not very conductive. But if the water gets filled with dirt, like as it's washing down a tire and it's getting the brake dust and stuff like that, yeah, it'll conduct. So be careful of dirty water. It will conduct. Okay. Now, multiband dipole, let's see, up here. Yeah. Do you think a multiband double bazooka, I think SRI fan dipole would work? From WD9GIT. Let's look it up. SRI fan dipole. Let's see. Let's get Google up here. Just Google. And SRI fan dipole. Okay. Here is, yeah, these things. It's more like this or like this. Okay. Here's a good picture of an 80-40-20-10, and this will actually work well on 15. I did a video, oh, this is a weird one, but I did a video with an antenna that looked kind of like this right here, and that video is one of my ARRL supplemental videos. If you go to the ARR, go to Ask Dave in QST, and there's a little link in there where you can get to the supplemental videos that come with every Ask Dave column. And the one I did in October of 2023 is the one you want to watch, because it does a fan dipole just like this without this loading. And it covered all of 40, all of 20, all of 15, and all of the lower part of 10. Okay, now they want $345 for this. You can build this for about $5. And no, I did not put a ballon in the middle. It was more like this, just, you know, the inside of the coax went to this side, the outside of the coax went to this side. That's why I've always made dipoles. They work very well. Okay, so if we go to arrl.org, okay, current issue QST magazine, okay, it brings up, gotta log in again, and then it brings up the thing you read. You need to be a league member to do this. This is this month's issue. There's Ask Dave. You can click on these things. They're hyperlinked. Okay, this is that dipole right there. Okay, and it uses the little technique of running the shorter dipoles right next to it. Now, right here, do you see this link? https://bit.ly, and then this thumb right here. Here is the link right here. And here, continue to destination. Thank you. This is the list of all of the videos that are supplements to my Ask Dave column. I'll pick something in there. Now, if we go down to October of 2023, what you get here is constructing an inverted V fan dipole. It's a pretty thorough this is the supplemental that covers here. We could not find my pipe slicer. I've got one. We did you know, check the SWR on all of them. We did some FT8 and stuff like that, and it works very, very, very slip well. Through, but if you put a little bit of a kink in the wire, it'll keep the thing from slipping through. Here is Aiden wrapping the ends of the wires together. He's pulled off several inches off the end of each wire. This is the part that will go on the insulator. Now, what we did was we first tinned those. You can see our little insulators down here. I used a torch, as that's a pretty thick piece of wire. Now, I will tell you that the torch was too much energy. We should have ramped it down quite a bit, but it worked. Now, here is the SO239. We decided to do that so we could use my standard test. The length, the problem that they have with that is that the The problem with that link is they use a Helvetica type of typeface where a 1, a lowercase l, and an uppercase I are all the same character. And that's the problem with that last character in there. You can't tell what it is. I seem to remember it's a 1, but you'll have to try them out, and then you can get to that playlist and look at all of my videos. Now, there's a little notice at the bottom of each of my columns that said there's an online supplement every month. And by the time you get your issue of QST, or it's up online, it gets online about 2 weeks before you get your issue. And you can go look at that video. It will be up by then. I just sent the one in for the August video. And this week I have to write the Ask Dave column for the September issue. Magazines are like that. You got to get out way ahead of them. Okay, so let's see what we got. We're going to go back to this here. Okay, Kenny Kelbaugh. Now, if you use a bazooka antenna, you're going to need a tuner. Okay, you will have to have a tuner, and it may exceed the range of your built-in tuner. The best place to put the tuner is outside at the beginning of the antenna, because the problem with the high SWR brought down to 1-to-1 by a local tuner is that the transmission line is seeing a lot of back and forth standing waves, which create heat. You can get around that a variety of ways. Okay, one way is to use, where'd it go? 450 ohm open wire line. Your antenna tuner may have an output for this on the back. This is balanced. One of the problems with open wire line is that the energy actually is surrounding this by a few inches, okay? So you need standoff insulators to keep this away from walls. You can't lay it on the ground. It can't be run up a mast without standoffs and so on. That's why we use coax. But if you have a really weird case, you might want to feed it with this. Now, the difference between 450 ohms, which is the characteristic impedance of that, is that the balun that you need to go from 50 ohms to 450 ohms is 450 ohms divided by 50, which is a 9-to-1 balun, not a 4-to-1. It's a 9-to-1. Okay, so get the right balun, and then you'll either need to get it back to 50 ohms or you can feed that antenna directly. Now, what I used to do when I had a large loop, an 80-meter full wavelength horizontal loop, was I put the balun right at the feed point. So anyway, it worked, but then I completely rebuilt my 14 AVQ and I put it in with some proper radials this time. And it worked so much better than the loop. I took the loop down and cut it up into more radials. And that's where I am now. Okay, ATAS 120 is a, I think Yaesu makes it. It's designed so that you're, and ICOM and Kenwood make similar antennas too. They are designed for use in a vehicle. Okay, also, the big manufacturers make remote tuners. Now, in a recent video, which I think was one of the supplemental videos, we created a random light antenna, and I simulated the use of a tuner at, an outdoor tuner at the base of it by putting a real tuner out there, my automatic tuner. It's MFJ993B. Put that out there, and I fed it with its own 12-volt battery because it's an active kind of thing that's got a processor in it. And so when I hit the DIT here on my radio, that antenna tuner tuned, bam, right onto that thing at a 1-to-1 SWR here. So feeding that with coax, we didn't have to worry about losses in transmission lines because there wasn't one. It fed directly to the antenna. You can do that with an outdoor antenna. You can also do things like that. An ATAS 120 that I cannot get grounded correctly on my car, and SWRs are high every band. Yes, there is one of the general videos. Let's see if I can find it. If we go to, let me get this up on the screen. If we go to learn, LEARN dot ARRL.org. Now, this is an ARRL site, okay? You need to be a current member of the league to access this, but you go to sign in, and I already have a sign in here. Email. Dave. Try to remember what email goes with it. No, I think I changed my credentials to Casler28@gmail.com. Let's see if that works. Bad email or password. Okay, I'll get my password manager out here and sign into that. And look at what I did for ARRL. Learn. It's davidaldeaart.com. Dave at aldeaart.com. There's not a single sign-on at the league. Copy that into the password and sign in. Damn. Well, let's try Casler28@gmail.com and use this long password here and sign in. I'm not going to get in. I'm sorry. I was going to show you a video that's in the general series. See if I can find it on my this is, well, I can't show you the video because this thing doesn't work that way. Let's see, there's a show screen. Shoot. I go into V6F. Here are the general updates. And it's in the one about operating. Hello, I'm Dave Casler, amateur radio call sign KE. Regulatory agencies. Let's see what's in 2. I'm sorry, I'm working from memory on this. I don't want to go in there. I want to get the actual Hello, I'm Dave Casler, amateur radio call sign KE. Operation. Let's go to 2.1. No, that is not what I want. Hello, I'm Dave Casler,
HF
amateur
operator.
radio call sign Kate. A lot of this is about
ham radio.
These things may get
operating.
And
some of the
For example, RIDI or an
the reason
mortality, which pop up in the signal studies.
That's not the
And-
right one. 0.2, 3.1. Doggone it. I'm sorry. I'll have to make a video about it to tell you what's going on. And I'm sorry. I called them and got my password and everything straightened out. And now it's gone belly up again. And no, I'm not happy about that. Okay, here's the normal view. We're back to, let's see, where were we? Let's see, the ATAS 120. What it shows in that video, which is one of the general videos, and it's got a mobile operating section. And I don't know which one that is right now. The mobile operating section, I went and interviewed Lou French, who's a local ham here, and he showed us around his mobile setup on his truck, okay? And he had the antenna attached to the roof of the truck right there. That's where he got his ground. But then he used ground strap to ground the chassis to the doors, and the chassis to the hood, and the chassis to the bed, and all that kind of stuff in order to get that ATAS to work correctly. So it was a lot of work. If you can't get the thing grounded, I mean, you got to get to the chassis somehow. You know, the body's got to be grounded to the chassis, and a lot of the parts are on rubber mounts, which are great insulators. So you want to ground them together. You can use ground strap because it's usually easier to work with, and it's not going to get hit with a lot of water and weather and so many things like that. So I hope that helps. The ATAS 120 should help. Now, if we look at the ATAS 120, and we'll look at it on the Yaesu site.com, and we're going to go amateur, and we're going to search amateur. Okay, we've got repeaters, rotators, legacy products, and we probably ought to get to the, we're here. Okay, amateur, contact us, search. Where's the search? Good grief, you can't have a... Okay, now that's just some of their receivers. It doesn't tell you much about their antenna. Here is a remote tuner, and it's got here's your ATAS 120 right here. Let's make this bigger somehow. Okay, with automatic motorized tuning, okay, covers these bands. All right. Now, automatic motorized tuning should plug into the back of your radio. The back of your radio should have a place for the tuning part to plug in. Here is an automatic matching antenna tuner that you can put right at the antenna. Okay, and here's one you can have inside. So these are sold by these people. If you've got an ATAS 120 clone, you might have an issue. I don't know. I've not had good luck with clone antennas. normal view. Okay. Well, I'm grounded. So yeah, look, watch that video. Let me find out what it is. It's the Blue Book. This is the current book. No, this is the last book. The 10th edition is the one you need to work from. And let's look in the table. Oh, let me get this on. Not on that one. I want it on the overhead. Okay, General Class License Manual. We'll work here. HF operating techniques, component circles, radio signals and equipment, HF station installation, 520. Does this bring back memories for any of you? 520. HF station installation is about mobile installations. Okay, so it's 5.5. Now, it's 5.5. Well, it's 5.5 is where I have that interview with Lou French. And it works. It works. Oh, I wanted to tell you about something that came in the mail, I think, yesterday. Ashar Farhan, who is in India and quite the experimenter, has made a series of radios. It started out with single band QRP CW. Okay, and I got one and made it. One of the things he did not do was include a case. And what do Americans want? They don't want to build their own case. So let me show you how I built my first one. This is the second one. The board is completely wired, but I had no case. So I stole this from my wife. It's a baking pan. And I put the wires in here, including the fuse. And it's got a little screen on it and so on. You've got volume. And this is a multi-turn kind of thing. And depending on how you set up, it also pushes as a button. And I think this does too. No, it doesn't. This is the microphone. He gave us a little microphone element. Okay. And so you can see my very flashy microphone element. And I even wired the push to talk switch right here. And this will do 5 watts on sideband. And it looks like it's a multiple band radio because it's got all the coils, etc., for the multiple bands. Well, his latest iteration is this one right here, which I paid $200 for out of channel funds. That's why I asked you to please donate, because so I can get things like this that normally a vendor wouldn't send me. Now, something that's really weird, this is called the ZBITX, and that's the serial number there. It doesn't say that on the front, but look at this on the top. The power is 6 to 9 volts. How many of you in your ham shacks have readily available to you 9 volts? No, hams run on 12 volts. And we're starting to see a lot of stuff on 5 volts because that's what the computers use, USB cables and so on. All the new Chinese radios charge from a 5 volts. You can charge them from your computer. If you've got one of those plug-in things you charge your phone with, you can use it with that and so on. 9 volts. So what I'm going to have to do is build and I've got the parts to do it, build a power supply that will reduce the whatever voltage is input, 12 or greater, to 9 volts. And then, I don't know if I can shove it inside this thing. He also puts a little battery holder there. Let me show you what those batteries look like. They're these batteries. This is an 18650. Okay, it is a single lithium-ion cell. Okay, lead-acid batteries are 2 volts per cell. AA batteries about 1.2 volts, and so on. All the different batteries are different, but he has created a place over here where you can put these batteries in. Supposedly, this one doesn't want to fit. Or maybe you just, no, it's not big enough. And it is the correct battery for this thing. So this is coming off. Okay, this is coming off. And I'm going to create a little, it takes a regulator. There's two, 7105s, is that the right one? That'll give you 5 volts out. Used a lot for computer stuff. I use it to power my station clock. I've got one of them. Also, there's a different chip that you can get where you can adjust the voltage to get what you want. And I've got both kinds of chips. And I've got all these little boards I can use. And I've got a whole bunch of resistors and electrolytic capacitors up there to make a real nice one. And so I can take my lithium-ion battery. This is my portable one. This is Golden Mate. I reviewed this at one point. It says 12.8 volts. That's when the thing's like fully discharged. I read it earlier today. It was like 13.4 volts. The lithium batteries have a higher voltage than the 12-volt lead acid. In fact, the battery that is powering my station's solar power. I've got a solar panel outside. Comes through a charge controller I got out of Pacificon, and I charge that battery. It goes every day. It takes what it wants because the battery management system is built in. Proper lithium-ion batteries like this are real easy to charge. I just set my station, my bench power supply for 14.6 volts and connect it to the input and let her rip. It'll take what it wants and stop charging. Now, you're not supposed to leave these things on chargers. This is a simple cell that has a little protective circuit in it, I think. And this is too big for that. Oh, I can already see what's going to be in the review of this thing. This thing has a Raspberry Pi in it. And if you plug in HDMI in the HDMI port, you can see the what's going on the Raspberry Pi, plus you also get a duplicate of what's on the screen. It's really interesting. I won't do my review now. I'll do my review when I have it up and working and have made a couple QSOs, which means building to meet his ridiculous power requirement. Also, Hans Sumner, who does the QRP Lab stuff, did this with his latest QMX Plus. I picked one of those up at Dayton from him personally, because he was staffing the booth, and it's 12-volt radio. But he has something in the instructions that say 12 volts means 12 volts, not 13.8, but 12. I'm going, here we go again. I've got to build a power supply for it so that I can use it with a real, genuine ham radio battery, okay? because this thing puts out, it charges at 14.6, 14.3 to 14.6. And then as soon as you take that off, let's see, my station battery is at 13.6 right now, 13.6 volts. Okay, so it's been that forever. Why are people trying to sell us stuff that we can't power with our own power supplies? That's crazy. But I'll do a review on that one and say, hey, no good. Okay, let's see. We're somewhere down here. By the way, Optical Man Jeff added $15 to the chat revenue. Thanks, Dave, for all you do for the hobby. Glad to see you Thursday. And Jeff is a longtime supporter of the channel. I really appreciate that. There are a variety of ways that you can support the channel. A list of them, if we go over to the screen here and go to the Casler.com/support. Okay, /support. We'll come up with this. All right, I do have a website. There are things on it, but mostly I do YouTube. One-time tip jar. You put in a message, I'd like to know your call sign, and hit pay now. It will take you to PayPal, which takes any credit card, or if you do have a PayPal account, you can take it out of that. This is a one-time tip jar, okay? And note that it goes to Mount Sneffels Press. That's my business name. Or you can do a monthly subscription via PayPal. Actually, I get the most money this way. You can put your call sign and comments there. There are 3 levels that I have set up, okay, that most people choose the 5. Or you can go to Patreon. And I do have some things occasionally on Amazon where I recommend a particular product. I'll have a link to the Amazon for it, and if you click on that link, I get a little bit of a finder's fee. It doesn't cost you anymore, but I get a little bit of a finder's fee. Now the patron is particularly interesting. Okay, let's go to patreon.com/KE0OG. And here's my Patreon page, okay? And you can become a patron. And a patron, you're charged every month, or if you want to do per year, that's about how much I get per month. Now, all of the paid members are listed at the end of every long form video, okay? Also, all the people who do a tip or do a subscription are also listed at the end of all my videos. This was a recent video here, and what happens here is that you get early access to all my videos, all right? You get early access to all the videos. They come to you via Patreon. Also, we send out a link to all the YouTube, all the senior moment here. To those who contributed via PayPal, also, if you note when you go to my actual channel, let's just go to the channel here. It's youtube.com, and YouTube, they put the @ in there. You don't have to. Here's my actual channel, okay? Now, when you look at a video, this is the live stream, right, last week. Here is the video. And Hello, Augies
Right.
Worldwide. I'm Dave Casler, amateur radio
Oh, I
call
can't
sign
join my own channel.
KE0OG.
That's why.
I have a question here
join
from Stuart,
button
K7STB.
If you join the
He says,
channel,
Dave, I just
you
bought a
can pick 'em out for
1930s
every
house
month. Now,
that
YouTube
doesn't have a
takes
utility
chunk
ground that I can
of
find, and the
I think you're
topsoil is
probably
about
hearing that
18 to
video
24
right now, so
inches.
let me turn that off. Okay, and we'll go back to the normal view. So Optical Man Jeff, thank you so very much for helping support the channel. And if you also, if you look, how do I get that on screen? See if I even can. If I come up here and do the screen view, we're looking now at the whole screen. I'll bring the comment down to the bottom. See where it says chat right there? You can put a smiley face in there. Also, this is what's known as a super chat. And that is what Optical Man Jeff put in right there. Okay, he hits that. And then if you want $1, $2, $10, $100, I had 101 once. You can put that on there. You can talk about loving somebody else's comment and so on. So, okay, there you are. Well, let's get that back down to where I can actually see the chats. And that was up here somewhere. Okay. I learned only yesterday that Japan is on 100 volts and no ground pole. That's kind of odd. Something needs to be grounded. Okay, at first means of disconnect. Hello from far west Missouri. I got two 220 volt shocks when I was a kid. Almost felt like I was going direct to heaven. Yeah. Dave, you are already famous in our hearts. Best of luck with the rich part. Yeah. Parametric receive audio system equalizer. Parametric receive audio system equalizer. Every work with that from Heil. There's something very similar to that on this headset. Oh, let me get back over to here, normal view. On this headset, this is the Heil Pro 7, which I picked up at Pacificon last year. And the headset is like an aviation headset. It really keeps the room noise out of here. Now, on the side of this, there's a left side balance. Okay, so you can get the audio right in the middle of your head. And then there's a switch on the side with kind of a protective thing around it. You can switch it so that both sides are in phase. That's normal. Or you can flip it. So one side is 180 out. Well, not 180 out of phase in terms of the sing. So what that does for me is it actually spreads the channel out a little bit and makes things easier to hear. Now, I have seen the parametric receive audio system equalizer. I've never used it. However, it was Bob Heil himself who showed it to me. He's passed away now. He's a silent key. Bob Heil is one of the only non-musicians to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because his claim to fame was he started working for the big rock bands, setting up their on-stage audio equipment to get the best sound out of it possible. And he did that for band after band after band after band after band. And he, you know, you can make a concert venue of any size and have perfect audio to all the people in the audience. And at the same time, not get feedback through the mic with the mic anywhere on stage. And of course, each instrument is mic'd separately, including the drums. Sometimes there are multiple microphones on the drums. And then
big hairy control panel with some freaky looking guy making sure everything works. Okay, Larry says got hit by a fireball. He was changing a shore power breaker and something fell on the circuit. Ouch. Good evening, Dave. NOG 75 and wet in the lower Hudson Valley. Question, what is more popular with hams generally? Vertically polarized or horizontally polarized antennas? The answer is I don't think anybody knows. The easiest antenna to put up by far is a half-wave dipole. So that's horizontal. Now you can put in a balun in the middle or just attach the inside connector to one side and the shielding to the other, which is what I do. I know that's not best practice, but I will tell you a story. When I was in the Air Force, still in training at Casler Air Force Base, there was a special event station for the Boy Scout Jamboree or whatever it was that was being held there. And I was operating the station around midnight. I was young then. I could stay up all night. I can't do that now. But anyway, the guy who put up the 80-meter dipole was adamant that there be a balun in the middle. Okay. All right, whatever you want. Well, he left to go home. I immediately crawled up there, took that balun out, put the wires in the way I wanted them, and bam, I started getting California on 80 meters. And back then there were prefix hunters who were all eager to get the station prefix. It was the unique sense of being on the other end of a pileup. People were piling up on me. I started having to go call district by call district by call district by call district. And only 6s now, only 7s, only 8s. And then I could pick out people and hand out the contacts. There was, I don't know, it was some contest or something. No, I was operating the radio while we were on the live stream. And a bunch of people were trying to call me. And I says, okay, I want the Kilo Delta Zero or whatever it was, only. And somebody came back and I said, I want the Kilo Delta Zero only. And so finally he got the idea and gave me that. When there's somebody directing a pileup, pay attention and obey. Otherwise, you'll make people angry. So let's see. What is vertically? If you buy an antenna, it's probably going to be a vertical, like an AV640. It's a really nice antenna if you can still get them. I mean, MFJ bought Cushcraft and High Gain and other companies and kept them alive, but MFJ, some people were interested in buying them, but Martin had too many conditions. He wanted it kept in Starkville. He wanted to keep all the same employees, keep all the same peace deal, where like people would make certain kinds of antennas and so on. And it took, nobody could meet those conditions, nor would they. And so now when he bought Cushcraft and High Gain, he moved them to Starkville. But he didn't want his operation to be moved out. So he just says, okay, I'm in a position to retire. He's like 80. And he dismantled the business. They're still selling things that they've still got in stock, still selling a few parts if they have them, but they're not doing any more manufacturing. They're certainly not buying from another vendor and reselling. Often, in many cases, if MFJ is out of something, DX Engineering might still have one. So go talk to them and see what you can get. Okay. Okay, I have, let's see, anyway. On my ship I was on, they always mentioned to us not to touch the big red cable. It was for 60 volts, not 220. It runs the power on the ship's system. Had a shipmate get killed by it. Yeah, it could happen. My wife's favorite nephew is an electrician on the, he goes into the commercial installations. He was a shipboard electrician. That's where he learned his trade. So he doesn't just do houses. I don't even think he does houses. He does commercial installations. Okay, so that, you know, you can build a vertical antenna. Building a multi-band vertical antenna is a little hard. The cheapest one I know of is the DX Commander Classic. It'll give you 40 through 6, I think. And it's a lot less expensive than these other antennas. It's a fan vertical, and it does need radials. I had a whole bunch of trouble with those guys, people who, the guy who builds it also has a YouTube channel. He's very charismatic, and his, I'll call them devotees, fans, whatever, are intensely loyal. And I did 2 videos before I did the actual video on the antenna. Both of the videos, I had people tell me that the instruction manual was hard to follow. So I just said, okay, my assistant is a high school senior. He ought to be able to read the instructions and put this thing together. This is not rocket science. He failed. So I reported that in the video. And oh man, the wrath of Khan settled upon me, as all his people, I still get these occasionally. The review was about the instruction manual. Well, by the time I got a new assistant, the instruction manual had gone to version 1.18. And so I had a different guy go do it. And he succeeded. Now, both of them watched the videos about how to put it up. And both of them had the instruction manual in front of them, but not me to help them. And the second guy who did it successfully put it up and it all collapsed on itself. So we went, and he went back and tightened the right things. And we put the thing up, and somehow he got the idea from the manual that the radial should be 10 foot long. No, they should be longer than that. But we put out all his 10-foot long radials, and the antenna worked just as well as my very expensive step-IR, big IR. Worked just as well. So that's one for you that you can take a look at. I believe DX Engineering sells the DX Commander antenna in the US. Okay, so by now there's lots of videos and the instruction manual is easy to follow and everything. But it's a unique antenna. I do not know of anyone else who's built a vertical fan dipole. A vertical fan vertical. Fan vertical. There, I got it. And I've still got mine. It works really well. I do recommend them in spite of the wrath of the followers of DX Commander. I stand by what I did. I stand by everything I said. Okay, still to this day. That was years ago, but it's available now. Okay. Let's see. So that's, if you're going to make your own antenna, the dipoles are by far the most popular. And you don't have to stretch them out straight. You can droop the ends. You can put them off at odd angles. The wire doesn't need to go straight. It can go around something. And I did a Ask Dave episode on that and proved it with modeling. Okay. Eric Sund in Boston, N0EZX, San Francisco tomorrow. That's a long flight. That's a 6-hour flight. Oh my. I used to have to fly to Boston a lot from LA. And I picked a flight that stopped in Kansas City for an hour so I could get out and walk around and then get back on that stupid metal tube and follow it all the way to Boston. I do not like the whole commercial airline experience. Drives me nuts. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like to fly, but I'm flying my own plane, which I no longer have. Had to sell it. Okay, let's see. I have a Harvey Wells TBS 50D and want to use a VFO with it. Harvey Wells made a VFO, but they are as rare as hen's teeth. Can you use another manufacturer's? The technical answer to that is yes, but you've got to get all the frequencies and levels correct. Because the VFO, the way a superheterodyne works is you've got the first VFO, which is the RF. You've got an RF amp, or may have an RF amp. And then you inject a VFO, which gets you to the right band. Okay, and that's in the Harvey Wells. But the next one is you mix the signal that comes through on that band with the local oscillator, which is tunable, which actually shows you the frequency on screen. What it's really doing is mixing with the signal, and the difference is 455 kilohertz. And it's easy to build a very sharp filter for a single frequency. Okay? Non-tunable, everything like that. The idea of the local VFO is to bring the signal down to the point where it can go into the IF amp. And you've got to get those numbers right. And they are different between manufacturers. So look in there and see how that thing works. You could use another manufacturer's VFO. You can build your own. You can buy them. The SI5351 chip uses a few external components and a 25 or 27 megahertz crystal with it. You can get these from QRP Labs. They're dirt cheap, like 10 bucks, you know. And you can program that to produce up to 3 different frequencies at the same time. And you only want one, but you can use that to inject into where the crystal would go. You can put it right into the crystal. He makes a crystal analog thing that behaves like a crystal, but it's really a VFO. So go to qrp-labs.com. And that's Hans Sommer, again, by the way. Okay. Thanks again for your expertise. I'm good at some things. Denny Kelbaugh. Hi, Dave. KB30NN. I have an ATAS 120 that can't get grounded. I am really sorry. I answered that earlier with the idea that you watch the video 5.5 for the general that goes with this, because I interviewed Lou French in there, okay? And he has solved that problem, okay? And he shows you how he did it. VU2 KOC, Om Prakash. I think the last syllable is the emphasized one. From Victor Union 2 Kilo Oscar Charlie from India. So we got people from all around. Often I get somebody check in from Australia, and here is Terence, 2 Echo 0 India Papa Kilo is in England, or the UK. I'll say the UK. Hi, Dave, and all. Hope everyone is keeping well. 17 degrees centigrade in London. Should be pleasant. Larry in the Philippines, Radio Wave used to sell bazooka antennas on various bands. My complaint was with my winds here would tear the antenna joints. Yes, Larry is in the Philippines. I went to the Philippines on my Mormon mission, and I experienced a typhoon in Manila. We got one of the last running buses to take us back to where we had our apartment. And oh man, man, the destruction from that thing. Typhoons are their version of hurricanes. Okay, what's the difference between a typhoon and a hurricane? One's in the Pacific, one's in the Atlantic. So that's about all the difference is. Okay, Optical Man, Jeff again, thank you. Caffeinated Bear Ham N6BG. Oh, we're overtime, aren't we? It's 8:15. Let me just, probably with a lot of new trucks, multi-metal build, aluminum alloys, use stainless steel fasteners and use a stainless steel washer in there so your copper never touches the steel. Okay, now you've got a bigger problem. Like my Jeep has a plastic top. It's meant to be taken off so you can go ride like the Rat Pack, you know. Solved all my grounding issues on my CJ5 by a grounding bus bar I tore out of an old breaker panel, ran 6 gauge from it to the negative battery terminal and all my grounds to it. That works. Okay. Favorite microphone is a Heil PR40 Superb on a piano. Okay, that's not a ham radio microphone. Ham radio, what you want to go through the mic is 300 to 3,000 kilohertz. Sharp cutoff. Okay? And on a piano, man, to get all that sound, you need from like 20 hertz all the way up to 20 kilohertz or more. When I was a boy, I could hear the flyback transformer in a standard television. Extremely high pitched. It was over 20 kilohertz, I believe. I could hear it. I can't now. My hearing tops out at 8K, and that's it. There's nothing above it. Okay, working 20 watt CW. Yeah, the 5 or 20 watts CW is quite adequate for a dipole. That's so good on single sideband. Discovered my container of dipole was full of water. Hope they still work. I will tell you this. If you put a piece of coax in a protective pipe, okay, bring it up above ground and all this kind of stuff like that, I guarantee you within a year it'll be full of water. I don't care how hard you seal that thing, it will be full of water. We had this same problem with when I was in the service with a radar in Florida. And no matter when the maintainers opened up a certain little box, there'd be water inside. And they checked that seal and they checked everything, it'd be water inside. Finally, somebody says, drill an 1/8-inch hole from the bottom up in there. What happens is during the heat of the day, you're forcing air out of the thing. And it's going to be higher pressure than outside than in. And then at night, when the box cools, it will pull air in. And it's humid air because it's more humid in the evening than during the day. And that's where the water comes from. So if you put a little hole in the bottom of the box, it equalizes the pressure and provides a place for the water to go. Okay, Yamaha Heil Pro. He makes some wonderful radios. Okay, I saw a story that Step by R is leaving ham radio. Yes, there's a reason for that. Their antennas because of the copper straps that go in and out, can tune on any frequency. They like to sell this stuff to the military. Now there's a problem. There's a law that says if you sell to someone else for less money than you sell to the military, you have to refund the difference to the military. The military must, by law, get your best price. Okay, that's why their antennas are like $2,500, is because that's what they want to sell them to the military for. And hams aren't really willing to pay that unless you are price insensitive. If you're a rich man, a rich ham, Yeah, you can buy their equipment. It's thousands of dollars, but you've already spent thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars on your tower and your rotator and all that. But yeah, they're dropping the ham business because they're really concentrating on, one, the military, and two, these super high-speed traders who have an HF link between here and London. And HF has no appreciable delay. He has the path delay, but no other delays. Now, the way a switch works, if you put an internet switch in somewhere, it's got to read the header before it knows where to send the packet. That's a delay. And no matter how much you do that, you've got a whole bunch of switches between you and your computer center in New Jersey. And if you can get a 100th of a second advantage over your competitor, you can get the lower price in London and sell it for more in the US, or vice versa. Okay? That's what these people do. Now, these are the people that everybody was upset about are going to, you know, take over ham radio and make the bands unusable and all that falderall. It's not true. If you've got a good radio with a good roofing filter in it, you'll never hear them. By the way, there's two kinds of Yaesu radios. The ones that start with FT and the ones that start with FTDX. The DX indicates you've got a radio with roofing filters that's designed for competitive operation in a multiband station. Okay? If it's just FT, it's the less expensive radio. The FT740 is very popular right now. It's about the equivalent of the ICOM 7300. The ICOM 7300 does not have roofing filters in it. You try using it at field day, you may run into getting interference with stations on other bands. But I have an FTDX3000 up there, and I will tell you, without caveat, that is the best receiver I have ever heard. It's unbelievably good. Okay, now it's a super heterodyne down to the point where at about 50 kilohertz or so, it converts to digital, and all the rest of the stuff is digital. But the real hard work is already done by the superhet. Diesel train engines, when they first came out, were not better than steam engines. So why did they sell? They were cheaper to run, cheaper and easier to run. Okay, so we get our nice ICOM 7300, which is a fantastic radio, but it doesn't have the near signal rejection capability that an FTDX10 will have. That's why that radio costs $300 more and seems to be just like the FT740. It's not. It's got a whole different front end in it. So anyway, we are out of time. Okay, yeah, please push some likes. And like I said, I strongly encourage you. Can you afford $2 a month? Go to patreon.com/KE0OG. If 100 of you do that, I get that extra $200 a month, and it is the channel and the work I do with the ARRL is 40% of my retirement income. So I have to keep enough money in there so I can go to a ham fest. We just went to Dayton. Okay. I'm going to, if they ask me again, I'm going to go to Flagstaff for their ham fest. We go to Albuquerque for their ham fest. I'll be speaking at least twice down there. And I go to Pacificon, and I'll be speaking out there too. Pacificon, even though it's quite far away, happens to be where one of Loretta's best female friends from decades ago lives. And she allows us to stay there. And she stays with her friend. Well, I go down the road about a mile to where Pacificon is being held. So, and then they come to the banquet, which is very nice. They serve salmon there. They also have a vegetarian dish. And they got beef or chicken and so on. So, all that. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. It's way late. We're over time. I'm sorry. If you can do $2 a month, please go to Patreon and sign up for it. If you can do a little more, I appreciate it. If you have to suddenly stop for some reason, I understand. I understand. And if you are watching this and you really are just not the contributor type, that's fine too. My goal is not to make money. I have to make enough money to run the channel. I've got to pay my assistant. My goal is to educate. My dad was a teacher. I guess I inherited it from him. My goal is to educate. And when I went to the Philippines on my Mormon mission, English is one of 3 national languages: Spanish, English, and Tagalog. Spanish is hardly spoken anywhere. Tagalog is only spoken in certain parts of the main island, Luzon. You go to other places and they speak different dialects. There's a total of 54 major dialects. And they're all, from a linguistics point of view, separate languages. They're not just, like England English versus American English. It's not like that. They're different. And people who are not born speaking Tagalog refuse to speak Tagalog because that's coming out of Manila. So anywhere, most of the people go to school. They go through about the 4th grade when they start learning English. And if they go to high school is taught in English. College is taught in English. Now, a lot of the people that we dealt with have very poor English. So I had to learn as an English speaker how to actually speak English instead of valley speak. I grew up near the San Fernando Valley, and words like cool and stuff like that mean nothing. I also had to learn some idiosyncrasies. For example, the next bus implies that there's a first bus. What you want to ask for is the first bus, not the next bus, because the next bus is the second bus. So we say, I'll see you next week. And I'm going, do you mean this week or next week? So I say to people, just out of habit, this coming week, to mean next week. And I had to learn how to explain fairly complex concepts about Mormon doctrine to people who spoke very little English. And that's how I learned to teach ham radio. I was also the guy, when I worked at Northrop, they always put up in front of the customer, because I could take a complex subject and narrow it down to where even a manager could understand it. So anyway, we're done. Thank you so very, very much for being part of this, and your support for the channel. It means a lot to me. And again, if you see me at a ham fest or anything, stop me, shake my hand, and say hello. I want to talk to you about your experience with ham radio. Also, we're going to start doing some interviews for the videos, instead of reviewing something or talking about somebody's question. Actually doing an interview with the ham. We'll do it over Zoom or something, and I'll record that and put that up there, because we can learn a lot from other hams. The way I do things, I talk about on my channel, but lots of other people do things differently, just as successfully. So, until we next meet, 73.
Bye.